Hello, my friends, and welcome to What's Up. Nice day here in West Virginia, and Gregg Braden and I get together every 2 weeks like this to think about, talk about whatever's on our mind. Hello, Greg. How are you, my friend?
John, I am doing so well. We've got spring and high desert. I've been on a multi-city in-studio media tour with our new book. I got home just in time to be here with you, so I couldn't ask for any
Yeah,
more.
and we're happy to happy to have you here. So, what's up? What you been thinking about?
You know, John, there's so many things we could talk about. I'm going to shift gears and go a little bit different place today. I have been closely following some archaeological studies that are ongoing. A few years ago, there was a dig that was happening in Iraq, and it was overshadowed by a lot of the military activity going there. And a lot of controversy, a lot of speculation, and what's happened in these past few months is there seems to be a greater certainty that the tomb of Gilgamesh was uncovered, which is important. And for our viewers that may not be familiar with Gilgamesh, there is a very famous tablet, the Epic of Gilgamesh, from ancient Mesopotamia, Sumeria, in that time. It would be kind of akin to the Trojan horse and the whole idea that that was a fairy tale until Troy was discovered, and then all of a sudden it became real. Well, the fact that the tomb of Gilgamesh has been discovered now and with greater certainty is casting a new light on the history of our planet and our relationship with life from beyond this planet, as Gilgamesh was said to be a hybrid being, one third human, two-thirds from another world. And the whole point of I mean, many places we could go with that. But the point is, it means that we're not the first here, that we actually are the aliens, and we're inhabiting a world that was inhabited by someone else before we got here. And according to the text, there's a point where they will want this world back. Now, that's a historic
Mhm.
context. We look at what's happening in the world right now, and you and I have done this in other programs. There is a list of large scale events that are unfolding, policies that are being implemented that are not good for humans, but that are remaking this world. And we have to ask the question, if it's not good for humans, who is it good for? Among those is the remaking of the climate, the desire to push our CO2 levels back to Pleistocene era CO2 levels, which were very difficult for Earth life, going from the 150, 180 parts per million is almost extinction level. The
Yeah.
UN wants to push us back to 212, which is dangerously close. We're at 420 parts per million now. We've been as high as 2,000 parts per million when Earth is lush and green and teeming with life. That's not good for us. Who's it good for?
Right.
Our superpowers are being encouraged to fight one another to deplete resources, armaments, making it difficult for us as a global family to defend ourselves if we had to. And intentionally, social bonds are being broken to weaken us, to make us more vulnerable to other agendas. And then the last piece is the movement to replace biology with
Yeah.
technology, AI, computer chips in the brain, chemicals in the blood. None of those things I listed are good for humans, and yet they're all being implemented with a ferocity
Yeah.
and a momentum that's increasing as we near the 2030 end date, which is the goal that has been identified by the UN and others to have these things implemented. So the question is, if it's not good for us, who's it good for? If we are not native to this planet,
Yeah.
if another species wanted this planet, are we compatible with that species? Would we be open to, would we be amenable to living and accepting another species to habitate with us. And I think it's a question, some people think it's just a crazy thing to even ask, but I think it's making more and more sense to ask that
Yeah,
question.
it's interesting, and certainly related to your Gilgamesh. As you know, I just got back from Egypt with Robert Edward Grant, and one of the things people keep asking me, "What did you see? What were you impressed with?" And so on. And one of the interesting things I saw was that, of course, they've got all of these hieroglyphs all over the wall, impressive kind of paintings. But there's a common kind of theme that shows up all the time, and you will see an Egyptian and an Egyptian, and then this animal human hybrid in the middle that's got a jackal head and a human body. And they say, oh, well, that's the spirit. And the spirits are the god. And they say that the gods have had these kind of characteristics and they represented these kinds of issues and so on. And I looked at those and said to my to the guy, who was a very enlightened guy, uh, how does this work? Because this is literal and this is literal, and why would you suggest that the guy, the characters at a time that there were human, animal, human uh, uh, combinations that are kind of like centaurs in the Greek period and so on. I mean, the history is full of these ideas that there were all these different combinations that were the byproduct, perhaps, of some kind of genetic stuff. But and then what they also said was that there are indications that say the Egyptian civilization started something like 25 or 35,000 years ago, and that was rebuilt and broken down and rebuilt every 12,000 years because there was these big catastrophes. And so there's a lot of things like that suggests that these kinds of ideas are certainly worth thinking about.
Oh, yeah. Well, another place where this is really casting concern. There's an archaeological, there's an artifact that was discovered back in the 20th century. It's called the Sumerian King's List. I've done videos on my YouTube channel about this. It is a list of the ruling class on planet Earth that goes back into a period of time, about 240,000 years before present. The reign of the kings uh, is no fantasy. There's another one, 48,000 years. And so the scientists have said, well, that's fantasy, but here's the problem. Then they get to the Great Flood, which geologically we now accept and historically we accept, and all of the kings from that, what's called post-diluvial, all the post-diluvial the reigns of those kings is right on. I mean, it is nailed accurate. And this is similar to what you're forward. Why would it not be
Yeah,
accurate from the flood back? And a couple of possibilities come up. Either the time periods are not noted in Earth years in our 365-day year. They're maybe noted from another system of timekeeping, or they are accurate, and we're looking at a form of life that is not susceptible to the disease and the illness and
yeah.
that pure humans are. So all of that comes down. Are we being prepared? And is this the urgency that we're seeing for the powers that be to remake the world and to remake life on this planet and to remake our bodies in this narrow window of time to make us more amenable to sharing this planet with another form of life? Are we going to have a battle for planet Earth by those who don't know the history we're talking about and think that we're being invaded?
Well, and is that battle essentially around that we've talked otherwise about digitization as opposed to kind of the continuing or the embellishment of the analog kind of form from where we came from, and that whole business, what I've been thinking about lately is the fact that all of most of the people that Donald Trump has brought into this new administration are all
Exactly.
technologists.
These ideas have been around for a long time, but they've never really had any traction, and there hasn't been really reason for concern because they were ideas being floated by elites at Davos,
Yeah.
Switzerland or something once a year, no big deal. The Davos meeting, this is February of 25, and the Davos meeting for this year just completed, and they doubled down in one sentence. They doubled down on what their goal is, and the goal is uh, the merging of the physical world, the digital world,
Mm,
and the biological
mm,
world into a single massive database run by AI.
yeah.
And that is the goal.
Yeah. There may be a way, this thing may not be seamless as it goes forward, and maybe they'll fail on this effort, just like they failed on trying to keep do a global one world. Uh,
I agree, John. I think, and if we're looking near term, it could be something as simple as the public audit of Fort Knox,
yeah, exactly.
uh, because and it's less about the physical gold. It's
No,
about
it's the emotions. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Well, and the trust, but it's happening at a time. It's not a one-off. Happening at a time when we're just bringing all of the corruption, all of the lies, when the lists are being released of all the names of all the people who've been compromised through, you know, all the different things are going on. All those things coming together. Uh, Media doesn't trust the medical system, and I think it's a recipe for big change for sure. And there's a level of maturity I think that we are going to need to step into to embrace the realities that we're being shown and the new possibilities that are in front of
yeah,
us.
yeah. In a way, it has to be related to kind of cooperation, if you will, and rather than
Yeah.
competition. That in fact, instead of competing with the status quo or the collapse of the old system or the powers that be or whatever, what we really need to do is not be a threat. I mean, you can't be in their face and after them, which is kind of the response that a lot of people take to this. And what we're proposing, is a really big deal, but we need to just go do it and not hassle anybody else in the process.
And I think we need to take a deep breath, step back, and really look at two things. Number one, we've always had technology in the world around us, and I think we always will. And there are places where it can be a beautiful thing and do really good things. We're being asked to accept that technology into our bodies. And
Yeah.
for the first time, we're being asked to change our natural existence to fit the vision of another world rather than that world being
Yeah.
molded to fit and honor human life. I think that's something to be really aware of as we move forward and make these choices.
We have to, in a very kind of organized way, say, how do I rise to this occasion? How do I become an integral part of this evolutionary jump or this consciousness elevation or whatever you want to call it?
When I think of it, I think rather than becoming different or new, it is striving to become the best version of myself, the best version of what I was given as a human. And I think for all of us to awaken those innate capacities and those extraordinary potential, I think we've got everything we need. And I
I
think that's
agree.
really what
I
we're all
agree
looking
with
at.
you, but I also think that there are these kind of waves of energy coming that they've measured that are coming out of the center of the galaxy and taking advantage
I
of.
agree. I see what you're saying, John. I agree. So the bottom line is it's not business as usual, right?
No, no, not at all. It isn't at all.
Well, that's why we have these conversations. Look at all the possibilities. Look at how would we share our world and our lives with beings from other worlds and what they know and want from us and what we know and what we want from them. And I think we're going to see that in our lifetimes.
the value of all these kind of discussions and strategic planning kind of writ large is more in the process than the end point. I mean, it's very unlikely that you'd really be predictive in all these kinds of things, but the process of building alternative scenarios or different futures or possibilities and considering all of the inputs and the influences in the whole thing suddenly, you know, broadens in your mind all of the the ways in which this thing could play out, and so then it makes it less stark and disruptive and scary, frankly.
Yeah.
And if we don't take the time to think about these and talk about these things, then you're really setting yourself to be not only ignorant and but also to really drive you into fear.
Well, it's going to be interesting, John, come about how much of what we're saying right now we've had to face in the year ahead of us.
This is going to be a wild year, Greg. I mean, this is really, really big.
I can see that. Well, I am excited for the ride to see where it goes, and I deeply appreciate your friendship, John, and the opportunity to
Likewise.
just the opportunity and the freedom to have these conversations. There aren't a lot of people that I can have the conversations with, and it means a lot to me that we do. Thank you for that.
Likewise, we appreciate this and appreciate you very much. And so, thank you very much. And then to our viewers, please come back. We'll be here again in another couple of weeks. Greg and I get together like this to just kind of riff off of whatever we've been thinking about every 2 weeks. And this is a product and a program of the Arlington Institute, a little think tank that I started about 35 years ago and that now resides in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, our little resort town. It's about 100 miles from Washington and Baltimore. We hope that you'll take a look at our website, arlingtoninstitute.org. You'll see all the different kind of programs and things we do, and they're all pointed at trying to facilitate this transition to a new world. And we're very happy to have you with us. Thank you, Greg, my friend. And
thank you. Look forward to our next.
Thank you. We'll be back again. Yes, sir. Be well.